Next stop everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the basement of solitude, still hiding out from the coronavirus. Ready to talk, not Doctor Who, but Torchwood once again with my great co-host, wonderful friend, and slightly obsessed Bruce Springsteen fan, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. I am excited to talk day 3 and 4 of Children of Earth, and I'm more excited about talking to our guest companion.
Yes. So last time we had Holly Mack, as you recall, who did a wonderful job despite rather difficult circumstances, if you heard our podcast audio last time. So apologies once again for that horrible audio. We're going to try to get through this discussion. So far, we're doing good. Let's see if Skype is a little friendlier to us this week, as we are joined once again by one of our favorite special guest companions and just all-around delightful person, Christine Peruski. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere.
Thank
How you doing?
you.
How you doing?
Well, you're only saying that because you don't have to deal with me daily.
Oh, well, I dealt with you weekly and loved talking to you.
I would deal with you weekly if you'd let me, as far as doing a podcast or something,
Well,
Hey, the offer's always out there. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah, Christine, how are you doing, Mistress of Correction, during these times? If I remember correct, you are in the retail world.
I am, sadly. It's stressful. Things, like, for me, haven't really changed that much. It's the things that you don't really notice right away that kind of, well, for starters, it's been like 2 weeks since I've had Starbucks, and it's killing me.
Are you going through withdrawal like my wife?
A little bit. I mean, it's not that they've closed down all the Starbucks. They've just closed down the closest one. And all of the really, like, I thought they would just keep the ones that had drive-thrus open. And I'm finding the opposite, that the ones inside the grocery stores are open. And there is one drive-thru available. And everybody is going to it.
Sure.
I was headed to it once, and the line was not just around the building, but out onto the road. And I was like, oh my God, no, never mind. No coffee. I'll just brew some more.
So how many people at your job have you killed so far? Or or at least wanted to kill? Or you don't want to admit to that publicly?
I don't think any of them listen to this show, so I'm good there.
That's good.
Mostly the higher ups, because there's been this giant wave of hiring, which you would expect in this time, yes. But the training that should go along with it just hasn't. It's just like, hi, you're new. Go do this. Well, I don't know how to do that. No, just go do it.
Yeah.
You're now officially an expert on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you know it or not. Yeah, exactly.
And people keep coming to me like I know something. Apparently, I have this aura of team leader about me. I don't know why. The team leaders, they wear a different uniform. I don't, because I'm not a team leader, and yet they think I am. So
you just look so you're management material.
My store director said that to me twice. Yeah. And he has gotten to know me better, and he has since stopped bringing it up.
He has withdrawn the compliment?
Yes.
They probably know that you were part of the small council,
Oh,
And
yes.
so therefore you are a person of leadership in certain circles. So, well, I am glad you are staying safe. And
Yeah, as am I.
Not so
Charles and
much
I are,
sane, but safe.
yes.
Yeah.
And Charles and I are thrilled you're here to talk about, um,
A different world crisis.
a
Yeah.
different world crisis. Absolutely.
Sane is always optional as far as I'm concerned. So, especially on this podcast, if you've listened to it, as you have. So anyway, with that, you guys might be wondering by now, okay, what are you guys talking about this week? Well, obviously, we're going to be talking more of Children of Earth, the 5-part, rather, I guess, I'm going to say limited series. It was more like just a single story season.
Mini-series event.
Mini-series event. That works.
You know what? Let me tell you a little anecdote about that.
Go for it.
I think about second day, my mom contacted me. I can't remember if she called me, texted me, whatever. And she's like, "Hey, have you heard of Torchwood Children of Earth?" And I'm like, yeah. Are you watching it? Yeah. She's like, "Yeah, I'm watching it too." And I'm like, "Do you realize that that's season 3 of Torchwood and that Torchwood is a spinoff of Doctor Who?" No, I thought it was just a miniseries. Like, how are you diving into this? Like, totally uneducated. And it's not like this is really a standalone because Jack, he can't die.
Right.
And it's just like he gets killed a lot in these 5 episodes. And they don't really get into that so much. I mean, he mentions that he's a fixed point in time. That's what the doctor said. And I'm like, and they mentioned the doctor a couple of times in this, and it's just, this is not a standalone exactly, So
like when he comes back from the dead, that doesn't like raise any like questions or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's the kind of thing that if it were a standalone miniseries, they'd kind of get into that,
Got it.
So it was interesting the way they must have advertised this when it was first airing, that the uninitiated would dive straight in.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine going to this cold, but for those who did, well done you. I guess you started right off with the best of Torchwood, as far as I'm concerned. So here
it's all downhill from here.
Exactly. So here in episode 181, we're talking day 3 and day 4. Obviously, episodes 3 and 4 of series 3. Day 3 written by Russell T Davies and James Moran, who's written for Doctor Who. He wrote The Fires of Pompeii, a rather notable episode featuring a certain Peter Capaldi. Hey, coincidence, right? And he also wrote the Torchwood episode Sleeper. And then in day 4, we once again have John Fay, who wrote day 2. And once again, directed by Euros Lyn, who directed parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And mostly, obviously, the guest cast is going to be the same as we talked about last time. This time, maybe there's a couple more people that kind of step into the role, so I'll just really quickly mention them. Nicholas Farrell, who plays PM Brian Green, who I didn't mention last week. He played Commander Gamides in a Big Finish audio with the 5th Doctor called Time Reef. He also played a character named Phil in another Big Finish audio for the 5th Doctor called A Perfect World, and a character for Big Finish for the 6th Doctor called Captain Frank in Last of the Cybermen. Most notably, though, he was in the movie Chariots of Fire, if you're at all familiar with that film from the 80s. A little bit. Yeah, basically it's that one where you see the guys in white shorts and T-shirts running on the beach, in slow motion as that Vangelis music plays. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yes.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. So that movie.
Actually, I think I meant to watch that movie and I just didn't.
I've never seen that movie, and I'm an 80s geek, so go figure. We also get the notable physical appearance by Nicholas Briggs, who you may find notable because, hey, he's the voice of the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Jadoon and about a billion other things, including all the work that he does for Big Finish. And here he makes and this is a little bit of trivia, his very first on-screen appearance. All he's done up till from here on, in the past or to the present, he's never been on screen except for this story.
And who was he?
I did not know that.
He played a character named Rick Yates. He was the bald guy as part of the Cobra cabal that kind of decides the drains on society. So if you remember the balding guy, the really heavy balding guy, he's that's Nicholas Briggs. So
Okay.
so and also Deborah Finley, who played Denise Riley, who's a character of some note in Day 4, which we'll talk about, because she's one of those that is like, well, hey, talking about the school tables, that woman. So we'll talk about her. Rather notable quote, in my opinion. All right.
I do have that quote.
All right, you do. Excellent.
Yes.
So I talked about Nicholas Briggs. Some other trivia I want to get into just very quickly, because I know we got a lot to talk about. Some fans were apparently really scarred by Ianto's death in Day 4. And apparently so much so they erected this shrine to Ianto in Cardiff Bay, apparently almost immediately after the episode aired. And apparently here's the interesting part. The shrine lasted for several years, and as of 2012 was a feature of Mermaid Cay in Cardiff. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And apparently the shrine was elevated to become a permanent attraction in Wales. So pretty cool, right?
That's very cool.
So
gave his life in defense of the children of this planet.
Yes.
Yep.
The management of Mermaid Cay salutes you.
Yeah, I like that.
So you just looked that up. So
Yeah,
pretty cool, right?
I was hoping to see the original. Oh yes, we want Torchwood Cardiff.
So anyways, I just thought I'd point that out there because I thought it was a rather interesting little tidbit. All right. So like I said, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk 4 topics this time. And topic number 1, let's talk about Jack's gift, which was a little bit of a controversy on this one. And so this is Jack's gift. So let's talk about Jack, Clem, and basically the whole 1965 Scotland affair.
So you say controversy, are you talking in the show or by the fans?
No, I'm just talking about probably by fans because of what Jack did. Sacrificing those 12 kids, and Clem being one of them, although he escaped, and the 4, 5, 6 didn't even notice. So this revelation comes out. This is something that Jack's been trying really hard to keep under wraps and not talk about, but it comes out because, hey, Clem spots him, identifies him, and then shoots him.
Yeah.
And so I want to get everybody's thoughts on that. So Christine, since you're our special guest this time, why don't you go first? And any thoughts on what happened with this big revelation?
Well, I can't really say that I blame Clem for shooting him. I think I probably would have done the same in his place. At least there was no actual consequences to that, so that's good.
Right.
I think looking at Jack of 1965 and Jack of the now, quote, unquote, he hired Gwen onto Torchwood to sort of be their moral compass. It's something that the Doctor needs, is a companion, something to keep them grounded and, humane, which doesn't exactly apply to the Doctor, but should apply to Jack. And, Jack's been around for a very long time, and he's going to be around a heck of a lot longer. And he needs someone to remind him what being human is. And I don't think he had that back in 1965. Torchwood was using him as, they were using him.
Right.
And, he was asked to do that job because he wouldn't care. And it sounded to me more like, you're not going to care about this because we told you not to.
Yeah, I mean, because he does seem like a very unemotional and distant. He has that much more shorter haircut, and he has a much more stern look on his face. He's very serious and doesn't really offering much sympathy up toward the kids. No.
And I think at that point he had become very bitter, and people didn't get close to him, and he didn't let people get close to him. And that is what we saw Gwen spending 2 seasons of the show doing, trying to get close to him, learn about him, make him emotional, and make him use those emotions. So obviously the Jack we saw in 1965 is not the Jack we have now. And back then he was a soldier, he was a company man, and he was a yes man.
Right.
He did what he was told. Now I wonder what exactly it was the aliens did to Clem, because he was in that light for maybe a second or two, and I think they did reject him because he was probably, hitting puberty. There's something about the prepubescent that they want, and why did what they do give him such a strong sense of smell? It doesn't look like in the condition that kid was in that they needed smell in any way, shape, or form.
That was a weird side effect, wasn't it?
Yeah. But interesting. I like that.
Apparently his superpower is he can smell who's pregnant and who's gay.
And it really pointed out how we as humans don't focus our communications technology around senses we don't use. Imagine if dogs were able to make a cell phone. Do you think it would have smells, be able to transmit smells? Because
that's how they communicate a lot.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gwen tells him to look at the screen. Don't worry, it's miles away. What do you think? And the first thing he does is, it's too far away to smell. And I'm like, that is inconvenient. We should do something about that.
Right. He needs smell-o-vision. That's what he needs. All right, Jesse. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I thought it was quite topical that it just happened to be, they mentioned the whole reason for the 1965 exchange was there was a virus that was about to cause a massive plague. They brought up the Spanish flu of 1918, and these are things that are just very in vogue right now.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and this is to both of you. Did it weird you out, either one of you, the kind of overtones with the whole concept of a plague and the virus that the 456 was using in these two episodes?
I find that history repeats itself, and honestly, you can find a lot of parallels in different situations. Just if you're watching something that has nothing to do with a plague, but it's some sort of grand scale thing that involves the government screwing things up, you'll probably see parallels in it too.
Just a little bit. A little bit. Jesse, how about you? Did it bother you to see to hear about the virus, or how did you react when this story was told about Jack? Did it really color your perception of him?
So I'll work the first one first about them bringing up the widespread virus,
the pandemic talk, and all that.
I that made me kind of smile, thinking that back then when this originally was broadcast, they probably needed to remind people about the Spanish influenza. Today,
right,
it would it would be a little more of mind. I remember watching this and being very disappointed in this latest wrinkle in Jack's story. I did not remember it. Like when I saw Jack this season, I didn't go, oh yeah, there's the guy that, killed a dozen kids. Or I guess they didn't die, sent a dozen kids to, aliens. I didn't remember that part of it, though I did remember the overall sense of doom and depression I had at the end of this series. Spoilers, we'll talk about that next week.
Right.
But watching this again, I was so disappointed in him.
Yeah.
And
we need to kind of keep in context, though, that he when we were first introduced to him in the Empty Child storyline, the two-parter back on Doctor Who in 2005, that he started off as a con man.
Right.
He was a grifter.
Absolutely.
And so he, it's not like this is the first really shady thing he's done.
I understand, but that doesn't...
This is pretty horrible.
But that
what he
doesn't
did.
take away my feelings about it. And that's, and so I was very, very, I actually didn't like this storyline. I am, as you guys know, I'm a very simple person,
Right.
and I like my heroes to be heroic. And this was disturbing. I think the show handled it well.
Right.
I think they didn't gloss over the thing they did. And even Reese said, it worked for 44 years. So I guess,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
sometimes
if you kind of think of the numbers,
Yeah.
I'm sure Jack was probably thinking of it along the lines of, well, hey, 12 kids versus how many millions of people?
Right.
So he was playing the numbers there, and
It's the trolley problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Which comes up so exaggerated in the last episode.
Yeah,
it does,
and
personalized,
and so well done in The Good Place. So, if you've not watched The Good Place, okay,
I've never watched. So
okay, it's
wait, yeah, the trolley problem is an earlier season.
Yes, it is. So I that isn't what I want in my in TV I watch.
Okay. So even though it was Russell
T
Davies,
the good guys have white hats, and the bad guys are easily distinguished by their black hats and pointy horns.
Right. Yeah, and like there are shows
no shades of gray.
Well, like there are shows like I love Billions,
right,
where the perceived villain actually is a good guy, and the good guy often does a lot of evil things. So I get that kind of storytelling. This was just a little harsh for me.
Right.
And I was glad that they didn't whitewash it. And I don't like to think what would be my decision on this. And
well, hopefully you never have to make one like that.
Exactly. Yes. And I think as we get to a little discussion, we get to when we discuss some of the future topics, there is a little bit of undertone in our discussion in modern society about this. Not as drastic, but it is. I think that's what, as I rewatched this, that echo of that felt very real. But I love Jack.
The moral dilemma.
Yeah. I love Captain Jack. Just was very disappointed in him.
Yeah. I mean, it's always very frustrating to kind of see your heroes be taken down a little bit. I have to try to, when I'm watching this, I'm trying to remember, well, okay, it's his creator, Russell T Davies, doing this. Mm-hmm. This isn't just something like some other writer came up with and screwed up the character. This is the actual creator of the character. So this may have been something that Russell T Davies was planning long term. And maybe this is just something that he came up with. But it's kind of hard that, you want to think the best of Jack because he's so personable, because he's so likable. And just so damn charming because it's John Barrowman, right? You can't think that he would do something this horrible of giving up 12 kids to the.
You know what I like to remind myself of?
Yeah.
Back in '65. I don't believe he was in charge of any branch of Torchwood. He was just an employee.
A soldier.
And he didn't have much say back then. I mean, we saw how he started in Torchwood, and it was very clearly he was being forced to do a lot of, I think he got forced into working for Torchwood. And I believe the only reason he's in charge now is because there something that happened where he was literally the only one left, and that made him in charge, and he basically had to rebuild his team.
Yeah.
So back then, he didn't really have much say, and
I have to think though that Jack, being Jack, if he didn't want to do something, he would come up with another way, somehow.
Jack, that's the Jack we know now.
I know. Yes.
And quite a long time of figuring out how to work in the system.
Right.
And I had the same issue with and it's hard to, I don't want to go into the fifth day
Yes.
too much, but I had the same concern when I watched this at the same time. There should have been a different way to do something. That said, Charles, I want to say this once again reinforces Russell T Davies, to use the poker metaphor, all in on this series.
Yes.
I mean,
we talked about that last time. Yeah.
And I think this just echoes it. To have me as a viewer being this disturbed and this put off,
right,
talks about the power of the story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what disturbed me the most about it.
Okay.
Like, especially in the current day version, but also in the 65, they don't seem to be trying too hard to find another way. And yes, Jack didn't seem to be trying hard to find another way back then, but he wasn't the one in charge. And
special appearance by my cat Keiko, by the way.
Yeah, Jesse, I saw your cat in the background.
He has a dog.
Well, really? Because it was definitely a cattail.
I don't know what that was. So,
oh my god!
Yeah, I think it was.
Are you cheating on your dog, Jesse?
Check your room.
Oh no!
Check your room.
Yes.
Maybe it's Catwoman. I don't know.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry to completely digress or throw everybody off there. My fault. Cute kitty in the room.
We needed, as after this topic, we needed
the lightness.
Cute kitty. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Maybe we should move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next.
All right. So as I completely derail the conversation, I apologize for that. But it's very frustrating, and hopefully, I thought it did make for some good television because there wasn't an easy out for Jack in this one. There wasn't a cosmic reset button to make everybody forget what he did. And even, someone like Ianto, especially before his death, calls him out for it. And you have to do something pretty bad to have Ianto call you out for something, because he's usually so reserved, I think. So, and obviously knowing how Ianto cares about Jack, that it probably really bothered him, and he wasn't afraid to express that, even given his feelings for Jack. So, all right. Anything else about Clem or anybody else? All right. Topic number 2. We are here. And I want to talk about the 456, their arrival on Earth, and then I also want to talk about, in that kind of related vein, their first couple of meetings with Frobisher, where they're kind of, they're kind of like Frobisher negotiates, like, hey, don't talk about 1965 Scotland, and just their those first, like the whole business with the guy with the camera that they allow inside the tank. So there's a lot to unpack there. Jesse, let's start with you on this one. Any thoughts on the 456?
So my first thought is, and I realize it's not fair to say, but where's the doctor in all this, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I realize it's not a Doctor Who episode; it's a Torchwood episode, and the doctor can't be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on call for Earth. But that's my first thought. And has the doctor ever seen this species before? Gonna move past that because that's just.
Let's just agree with Gwen. I know it's the 5th episode that she says it, but it is on the menu of the discs.
Yeah.
He's turning his head away in shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like you kind of have to wonder. Well, this is the story of how Torchwood would deal with something if the doctor wasn't around, and turns out they don't deal with it all that well.
They don't. And
maybe that was the point of the story.
It could be.
Because especially, and we'll talk about it when we talk about our final topic.
Okay.
That what happens with Ianto. That you got to wonder how things would have turned out had the doctor been there.
So, at one point, the UK Frobisher in that as the representative, is more worried about covering their assets than they are trying to deal directly. It's like, oh my goodness, we can't let this has happened before. We don't want to let people know. He is the ultimate middleman and just following orders and going through. I wish I could say I felt sorry for him, but I didn't.
Right.
I was a little put off by him, and definitely put off by the cabinet meeting, the prime minister.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a third, because there's a lot to unpack there as well. So.
Yeah. And he keeps, every time he calls his wife, oh, you know me, I'm just pushing papers. I'm not doing anything important.
He's totally lying to his wife, even especially when it affects their kids directly. Yeah,
and he's lying. I think he's lying to himself. I think he has a little bit of ambition, or maybe a lot of ambition, that, okay, I get my hands dirty, I'm later going to be rewarded. And so...
And it makes you go, come on, you have to see that you are not coming out of this unscathed. The Prime Minister, right off the bat, is passing the buck. You have to find that suspicious.
Right.
I echo that exactly. So that was my thought.
Weasley politicians being Weasley politicians.
Absolutely.
Go figure.
And you had mentioned last time that in a couple of his scenes, you heard echoes of him playing the Doctor.
Yes.
I listened for this time. I did not see anything.
Not so much in 3 and 4, but probably I think the scene when he's talking to the 4 or 5, the conditions, exactly.
Yeah, that line specifically. We have one condition. Do you understand that? A condition?
Yes.
Do you know what that means? Yeah, right. Like that one bit. Like he looks confident and aggressive. And then almost immediately he becomes that Weasley middleman again.
Yeah, he has. You're right, exactly. He has that little moment of backbone, and then it just completely evaporates in a heart. Like that. I can't snap because of I have trigger finger, but but anyway, so it just it goes away in a heartbeat. And, so it's just, that's what I was talking about. Just these little glimpses, not so much like, personality wise, he's exactly like the 12th Doctor. No, obviously he's not. He's playing a completely different character. Capaldi is, but, I just, every so often I see that little glimmer of the 12th Doctor, come through.
Yeah. If you have a minute, like find that scene where they have that first conversation, just look for that line about conditions. You'll see it.
Yeah. You can almost isolate the audio, and you could say, well, play a guessing game. Is it the Doctor or John Frobisher?
One of the things that I tend to not do that some of our fellow Doctor Who fans do is, say, oh, I can't see blank being the Doctor. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't see blank being a companion. I don't see that. And I don't ever have that kind of mindset. I'm always open. I do think, though, if I had just watched Children of Earth and they had announced him as the Doctor, it may have been tough for me to forget that character, to think of him. But it'd been enough years and distance that I didn't have that mindset. Right now, as I'm watching him going, wow, I can't believe they got this guy to be the Doctor.
Is that a compliment or an insult?
Probably compliment on his acting and an insult on the character that he played. Okay. Yeah, I compliment his acting, but he is so good as this Weasley middleman that I would have gone.
Acting.
Yeah, there's no way this guy could be our hero in the Doctor. And of course, now that we know he was amazing, that I can go, wow, this guy might be pretty good.
So about the 4, 5, 6, I want to. So what did you make of their rather showy arrival? Christine raising her hand. Let's go to Christine. All right, Christine, go for it.
I found these 2 episodes have quite a bit of Independence Day imagery.
Yes.
The column of fire coming down on a government building, just immediately you get the flashes to Independence Day, and then you got this mysterious alien behind a window barrier, and that alien is even showing us at one point that they're hooked up to a person.
Right.
Like, all of that was in Independence Day. But what gets me is these aliens.
Thankfully, it has a better resolution than an Apple or a virus that even Apple computers can't get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that apparently saves the day in Independence Day. Spoilers.
Well, honestly, I think
I want to know how Earth computers talk to alien computers like that, but okay.
It's in the script,
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But what got me about this alien, and they never explain this, and I can only speculate, why does it keep like splattering on the window? Like it's bile.
I don't get that at all.
It's like kind of when it's pissed off, it goes, like it's going, like it just spits.
I don't know. All I can assume is that we find out in the last episode that they are basically drug addicts, and drug addicts, like serious drug addicts, are never clean. Yeah. Drugs have side effects. Yeah. And I imagine that's it. And also,
so they're like crack aliens.
They gave him a squeegee in there because every time you come back, it's clean again.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with that. All right, send in the cleaners.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That was way too good.
Thank you very much. I'll be here all week. No. So I thought it was interesting that big, that big column of fire, like you were talking about. I would think that would pretty much destroy any attempt at secrecy that Frobisher and his crew were hoping to achieve here, because basically the aliens are going like, yeah, we're right here. So,
like, look, we're going to point.
Yes.
We're going to point long enough so you can all take a look. Look what we're doing.
We're literally drawing a line from point A to point B for you, so you can find out where we are. And
I don't know if it was just my audio, but I swear, like, the entire season, they limit themselves on audio use so a couple of scenes, they can, like, bring in, like, the bass line, and, like, I swear to God, the audio sounded like it went from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional when that alien came in the room. I was like, oh my God, what volume? Yeah. Ah!
Well, they got the sound bar hooked up, I guess, and amplified it. So, but anyway, so he, I just thought that was pretty funny that they're trying so hard to keep everything secret, and it's just the 456 are just completely blowing that out of the water. And then that poor cameraman, I don't know about you, but I felt really bad for that guy. They asked him, they basically, Frobisher negotiates for the guy with the camera to go into the 456 tank. And so they say, okay, you can bring your camera. So he goes in there, and potentially, I'm presuming that the reason they did that because, hey, they just wanted to show that they have one of those kids in there. And that they after all these years still have them kind of preserved in a kind of zombified state. And that poor guy, he's getting spat upon, especially like when he's trying to leave. Like he gets all like worse than probably Bill Murray in Ghostbusters by Slimer. And and he couldn't peel that suit off fast enough.
And the suit wasn't enough. He started stripping his clothes off, too.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you? I'd be like, I don't want anything on that.
I don't like ick, I just don't do well with that.
So what do you guys make of the revelation about that they still had the kids in there? Or at least one of the kids in that tank? Did it shock you? Or would you like, oh, of course they do?
I wasn't expecting them to be hooked up and like there. Of course, this is before they told us what they were for. And then when they told us what they were for, I was like, so only 12?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you are there? And it was, I don't know, it was just gross. I'm like, what are they managing to do to keep the kid alive that long and still a kid. How do you halt puberty like that? I don't know. It was
like you put him in some kind of suspended animation, or they freeze dried him or something by the look of him.
well, no, because he was breathing. He was looking around, so the kid was like at least conscious. Maybe he ain't all there anymore.
He looked completely emaciated, though.
Yeah.
It was a creepy twist that was kind of cool to see.
Did it shock you?
And just at this point,
It's
it just
Torchwood.
yeah, it didn't really shock me. It was like, okay, that's
cool.
another twist. And I actually thought, well, will this it shouldn't, but will this ease a little bit of Jack's guilt? Like, well, they didn't die,
Yeah, right.
And it
Sure, you
shouldn't,
could
but
call
did
it
he?
that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you think that was Russell T Davies' way of sort of hand waving what Jack did a little bit, going, well, the kids are still there.
No, I think to show even how creepier it is, and to show that them asking for a taste, a pretty heavy vig, 10%.
Yeah, what'd you make of
yeah.
that whole, like, okay, we're not just going to ask for 12 kids this time. We're asking for 12% of the children population.
10%.
10%.
10%.
10%.
Well,
Yeah.
Of the
As a Dresden Files fan, I was disappointed that they did not use the word decimate in its like actual
context
definition.
Yes, because hey, you're reducing something by 10%. You're decimating. Exactly.
See,
I know the meaning.
Well, yeah. I mean, if
a lot of writers don't.
If you read the Dresden Files and don't come away knowing the meaning of the word decimate, I mean, he goes on a full-page rant about that.
That was pretty epic.
Yeah, I thought it was it's just, this is a creepy turn. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is such a powerful season, and why I think many people agree with you, Charles. This is so far the highlight of the Torchwood experience.
Well, I mean, it's such a huge threat. It's nothing like we'd seen on Torchwood before. Something to this scale. I mean, it's just so huge. It's like Doctor Who level huge.
Mm-hmm.
And in Torchwood being Torchwood, they're not nearly what the Doctor is, as we find out.
But it's Torchwood level deep.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get something quite so horrifying as the Children of Earth.
Yes.
With Doctor Who, because I was watching this with my boyfriend. He hasn't gone through Doctor Who, and he hasn't gone through Torchwood. He's been getting little snippets here and there. And the last episode, he's like, "Oh, this just got dark," and I'm like, "Just got dark? Where have you been?" And yeah, he chuckled because it's dark almost immediately. Dark. It's like they had a meeting in the writers' room and said, "Okay, what is a universal planet-wide way to horrify everyone? Like a real, not like some creepy alien, but what in the real world could horrify the entire human race?" And
obviously they're kids, losing their kids.
Absolutely.
Mess with their kids. Mess with threaten their kids. And
I thought it was a great science fiction idea. I mean, I talked about that last time, that I love the high concept of it.
And now here's what gets me. They don't just want 10% of the children. And of course, it's not just like vaguely children. It is, and they don't even say it, but they mean prepubescent kids.
Yes.
They know what 10% is, not just of the world, but of each country. What system are we going on where we have tracked the numbers of prepubescent children? Like, where is this written down anywhere? Like, are we just calling it an age, or are we like going with the school records and saying everybody in primary school? Is that it?
Yeah, I want to know how because we never got really an explanation about why they need prepubescence.
Well, I imagine the puberty ruins the drug.
That's what I'm thinking too.
The chemical changes in the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right, that makes sense because because obviously puberty causes a huge
Yes.
change in your body chemistry. So that makes perfect
Oh,
sense.
hormones don't taste good.
Hormones. Nom, 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 nom. All right. Anything else about this arrival? Now, obviously, we're going to get more into the ramifications of the 10% threat
Nope, I'm ready to move on.
or clause in their agreement that they want in there. So what we have is some seriously high stakes negotiations going on. So to kind of continue with this in our third topic, which I'm going to call drains on society, because that's one of the phrases that comes up when the cabinet office briefing room squad, aka that's what COBRA stands for, by the way, in the UK. That's where the acronym comes from. And so basically you have the PM and all the top level politicians in the UK gathering together in a room to deal with this crisis. And Lois, meanwhile, Lois Abiba, who I seriously adore, has been recruited.
She also ended up not getting her Starbucks because somebody decided to interrupt her in line.
Right. Yeah, so, here she is just trying to go about her day, and then Gwen shows up with a special pair of Torchwood contact lenses. So, hey, can you spy on them for us? Because, we can't get in there, and you've been really cool to us, and you're the only one really talking to us right now.
Yeah, no big deal. We're just asking you to commit treason.
Yeah, exactly. And, while we kind of, hide in the shadows. And
no problem.
Yeah, no problem. You're going to do that for us because we're cool, right? And you're cool, right?
I think when I
you want to be cool.
When I first saw this, I didn't really realize why she was so against doing this, and I guess I didn't grasp the concept back then of how illegal what she was doing was.
Yeah, because it's state secrets that she's broadcasting to Torchwood. Yeah, this is huge. So
you really
deal.
have to.
They have this thing called
sympathize with her.
Yeah, they have this thing in the UK called the Official Secrets Act. That this is a big high crime that she's committing here.
And in the past, whistleblowers have not fared very well. A couple weeks ago, I had retweeted some statements of certain politicians in this current crisis about, and unfortunately, the lieutenant governor in Texas, who is an idiot, has said,
pretty much,
our grandparents should be willing to die to save the economy.
What a nice guy.
Yeah. That,
maybe
Dr.
he's a 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, Dr. Oz said only 1 or 2% of the kids would die.
Something tells me
basically
tells me that he doesn't have grandparents anymore.
Yeah. So basically, you're all better off not listening to anything a TV doctor has to say.
Yes,
that has their own talk show.
But unfortunately, the lieutenant governor is embarrassing, and so when I saw this and I knew we were talking Torchwood. Linda is not a fan of much science fiction, period. And she will watch the occasional Doctor Who episode with me. But I remember when this came on the first time, I backed up that cabinet scene on the DVR and I said, hey, Linda, I need you to watch something with me. I said, all you need to know is that an alien race wants 10% of the children, or else something bad's going to happen. Now, who do you think are the true? One, do you think this is realistic? And two, who are the true monsters? And we watched that scene and then paused. And Linda said, oh my gosh, they're the monsters. And absolutely, I hate to say this, but I think that is more realistic than we would like to believe.
Right.
Oh yeah,
and this coronavirus, I think, has proven that how believable this could actually be.
Yeah,
even though it's supposed to be science fiction, it's supposed to be something completely fictitious, but like good science fiction, it's grounded in reality, and it shows kind of puts that nice little spotlight on how horrible people like that will react, because sometimes humans suck. Let's face it.
And I just went through one of the things we did in our rewatch. Linda had never watched the final few seasons of Madam Secretary, and so we specifically rewatched the final season where she's president. And she has to make a decision, and one of the decisions is to send the Marines in, and they know that will be deaths. There's a good chance there's going to be deaths. And the argument is, but that's what they signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
Not that any death, and I don't want to sound like Trump, one is tragic. But the reality is every life is precious, and I get that. But the idea, though, when you make these decisions about sending people for war, or when police officers and firefighters and other people go, they know that's part of the gig, and they've accepted that. There is no way... Children, this is not what they signed up for.
Exactly. If it was an adult making that decision, that choice, it's a lot different than kids who don't have that choice having that choice made for them.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the whole ethical issue that's being presented here.
Here's my biggest issue with...
Tell us your biggest issue.
With this group. Now, I have a very strong logical side of my brain that will go out the window when my emotions flare up. But logically, I can understand the discussions happening in that room. I can understand they're choosing, they're working out the logistics, figuring out which children. What I didn't like, what was bothering me the most, like I watched these 2 episodes, I think 3 times in the past week.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, I watched the whole season. Watched the 2 episodes again to start taking notes, and then watched it again because I didn't find many quotes and I wanted to try again. It wasn't until the 3rd time, after I had let it stew in my head, it wasn't until the 3rd time that I realized they had mentioned this so briefly. I was like, why is it they're only discussing how to make this concession with these aliens? Why aren't they discussing saying no? Why aren't they discussing how do we fight back? And I realized on the 3rd watch, they bring it up. It's like 3 sentences and then moving on. They say there's nothing to fight. We suppose they're up there somewhere, but we can't find them. And it's a war we can't win. They don't discuss why they can't win. They don't discuss we've discovered the capabilities. They don't even discuss they must be technologically terrifying because they're able to do this with our children. They just say it's so brushed off that it's like they aren't even thinking about it. I'm like, what happened to negotiating with terrorists?
Yeah, well, in 1965, they are aware of that incident, and that,
and back then they were at least
they had the virus back then.
Yeah, they came up and said, hey, you're about to have this horrible virus spread out throughout the land, and that was already happening. They already knew of his existence, and we have the cure. We'll give it to you in exchange for this.
Yes.
Now they're just saying, you're going to give us these kids because.
Yeah.
It's like they're not offering anything in return except not killing us.
Well, I mean, it's a total mafia. It's a total mafia move. They
don't even say that either. They just say, you're going to give us this gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice plan that you have here. It's a shame that something happened to it.
Yeah, it is. And I totally agree with that. And I get that. I'm thinking the same thing. Like, is there not even it's on the table? How do we defend this? How do we stop this? They
have UNIT. They have, they could have had Torchwood had they decided not to throw them under the bus.
And they didn't even go to UNIT. The UNIT guy brought that up.
Like, hey,
they had a UNIT guy there.
And he says,
he
this
showed
is
up
what I'm here
later.
for. Yeah. And
UNIT, so they're always in Geneva or something. So.
And their go-to is, well, maybe we can make a counter offer of less children, right?
Right.
And so and
that was part of the negotiations that Frobisher did. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just creepy.
Yeah. And they're like, no, that's 10%, and then the way the 456 reinforced that, like, we're not going to accept that, is they had every kid all over the world in their own country broadcast their percentage of 10%.
Yeah.
So whatever that country was, whatever that amount was of 10% of their country, that's the amount, that's the number they repeated over and over. So so basically they're just saying, so that's nice that you have this counter offer. We're still going with our original offer. And just as a reminder, we could control your kids.
And I thought what was interesting is they kind of did a Dr. Phil move, right? They mentioned how many infant mortality. They start mentioning that this is something that happens anyway. You've already accepted that X amount of children die because of diseases and vaccinations not given and because of hunger. You've already made the callous decision at times that you aren't taking care of people. So now then, it's the old joke. Would you sleep with me for $1,000? Well, yes. Would you sleep for $1? No. What kind of person do you think I am? We've already established what you are. We're now just negotiating on price. These aliens have said, we've already established what kind of person you are. We're just now negotiating price. And by the way, we're not going to negotiate.
Yeah, that's our negotiation, is that we're not negotiating. Exactly. So during that Cobra meeting, a woman by the name of Denise steps forward, basically, some background character that comes out of nowhere. And because they're talking, basically saying, well, they kind of get into a petty little debate, which you could obviously see politicians going, well, it's not going to be my kids, and it's not going to be the kids of anybody I care about.
Yeah, she already knows where she wants this conversation to go.
Right.
And she's mapped out how to get there without argument.
Yeah.
Very, very cleverly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a cliche, but it's true that most politicians send young men and women to battlefields that are not their own. Cue John Fogerty, I'm no fortunate son. If we were dropping in music.
Classic rock from the 60s.
Yes. And you're right, Christine. She manipulates the conversation the same way we just did on this joke, right? Okay, now that we've totally established that we're not doing it random, now let's talk about how are we going to pick this?
Yeah, and then so basically they decide, at least Denise suggests, well, hey, the criteria should be the school league tables, because the higher the higher schools are going to be producing graduates who are going to be actually contributing to society, while the failing schools are going to be the ones, and this is her term, who are going to be drains on society, hence the title for my topic. And so the basically is like, well, we get rid of the lessers. We're basically kind of social engineering here, going a little bit of Darwinism, a little forced Darwinism, where we're getting rid of the weaker of our species, and hey, we're just by the same token, fulfilling this requirement that the 456 is making us do so that they won't kill us.
I also thought...
So it's like a win-win, right, everybody?
Couple thoughts about that. One, the guy was doing the spin, right? Like, okay, maybe we could spin this as good for the environment, right? But
just like $1.
Yeah, exactly. But it is the... we go back to George Orwell, Animal Farm, right?
Orwell.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. And yes. That's exactly what she is saying, that yes.
And this is where I become a horrible person. I totally get what she's saying. I really do. I mean, she's right. Their job is to plan for the future of society. That is exactly what politicians are for. They're supposed to be setting up things to better the society. Whether or not they actually end up doing that, that's a totally different question. But that's what they're for. And what she's suggesting is exactly what that would do. there was what I thought a better suggestion on this method, but of course they're pressed for time. I like every second child. This would, not take the only children away from a lot of people out. This was a little more of an emotional decision there. Sadly, they had one day, and I don't even know how they pulled off the logistics in one day, but they did. Probably because of the decision they went with. They targeted specific schools because they were in bad areas.
Yeah, and you notice the way they plan to cover this up, that Frobisher mentions, is like, well, hey, we're just, we're going to promise an inoculation against, them being mind controlled by the...
And we were duped.
Yeah, exactly. And basically going, hey, so I'm sure sometimes that those vaccinations are going to go wrong, and I guess those kids are going to die mysteriously. Whoops. And that's how they plan to cover it up. So all around, not a good look for humanity there.
No, it's not at all.
No, because it's an honest look at humanity.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. So it basically, you could, it's disturbing how you can see this actually happening.
Really makes this the best of Torchwood because it's so honest.
Right. I agree.
Right. I mean, listen to this discussion we've been having for the better part of an hour now. Look how serious it is. The subjects we're talking about, and this isn't just like a typical like Doctor Who where you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants and having fun and whatnot. This is some pretty pretty adult subject matter topics that we're talking about here. And so I get, even with the story's flaws, this is why I still rate it so high, is because it really raises the bar as far as I'm concerned. So that's the way I'd see it anyway. All right. Anything else about this topic before we move on?
No, let's get out of this room. It has a bad smell in it.
All right. Well, like I guess everybody put on a fresh set of deodorant, spruce yourself up. And, we'll move on to topic number 4. Another cheery topic, the death of Ianto. So...
Okay, let's go back to the stinky room.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think if you weren't cheered up enough by our third topic, let's talk about Ianto's dying, because it was such a significant plot point. I felt we need to cover this.
No, I totally agree, Charles. And I think this is for the very reason we're three sitting here going, why isn't there discussion about fighting back? Why isn't there discussion about doing this?
And we're back to this again.
Yeah. And so Torchwood, Jack makes the decision. He figures out how to, they have a plan. They're going to broadcast to the world what everyone has been discussed. We've got a plan. We're going to fight, in a very, stiff upper lip British, to the last man. And all of a sudden the aliens go, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah. Christine has her hand up. Christine.
Yes, I have a hand up. You say Jack has a plan, and I disagree.
Okay.
These 2 episodes were completely focused on how do we circumvent this government who has just been trying to kill us and lock us out. They get past that, and they had no plan of, okay, how do we fight these aliens? Yes, Charles has his hand up.
I have my hand up. So, yes, I'm with you, although I would make the argument that they do have a plan, but it's a really crappy plan.
Yeah, we're going to talk to the alien. Yeah. And he's totally going to listen to us.
Yeah, their plan was, okay.
They just saw how they tried to negotiate.
No. They went in there, so we're going to go ahead and confront this alien menace, whom we've never confronted before directly. No, only know about because, hey, we've been spying through Lois's contact lenses.
We're not going to do any research, try to find out anything about the alien.
And where they're being kept and whatnot. And we're just going to go in there with a couple of handguns and expect to somehow save the day. Now, granted, it's Jack. Jack is very cocky like that. But, again, this is a very horrible plan that...
Listen, I get
goes
him being
sideways.
cocky when there's like an alien rampaging through
Right.
London, killing one person here, one person there. I totally get that. But this is an alien race who has managed to take control of the world's children.
Go ahead, Christine. I'm sorry.
It's similar to an episode of Doctor Who. Oh, this might be a reverse polarity.
Which episode were you going to suggest? I'm just kind of curious.
Blood Control.
Oh,
remember
Blood Control. I love Blood Control.
Yes.
Having that good blood control and then good old Dan. Yes.
And I would have been one of the ones up on the roof. I am A positive. Yes.
Right.
But the doctor the doctor did go to the aliens and talk to them. However, he was able to see all of the aliens. He knew what they were and knew what their abilities were and knew that he didn't really have control over the people. This is different.
So Jack thinks
go ahead.
that
Go ahead, Jesse. I'm sorry.
Jack thinks that the aliens are bullies, and that if you push back to a bully, they're going to crumble. And so I agree. I think both of you are right. Right? They had very little of a plan, or what little plan they had was not a good plan.
Sometimes the bully is stronger than you. Just pointing that out there. Sometimes it doesn't always work.
Yeah, and so
That's why bullies are so effective, because you never know for sure.
Exactly.
And once again, Russell T Davies, in his greatness, is amping up the stakes, even though he's already all in. He has said, "Okay, he's
pulled his watch off and added it."
Yeah, exactly. We were so disgusted by the politicians. And we love the fact that, Torchwood's coming to the rescue. They're standing up to this bully, and the aliens go, "I'll see you're all in, and I'm gonna raise you, right? And not just your watch, but your keys to your car
and the deed to your house."
Yep.
And so all of a sudden, and you see,
and that nice sidekick you're so fond of.
Yeah, and Jack's crumbling, right? Like, okay, I give up. Okay, good, stop, but just not him.
Right.
And
then the 456 is like, yeah, that's nice. Screw you for one, because you had your shot and you blew it.
Yeah,
you blew it.
We need to get your attention, and this is how we're going to do it to show that we need to quell any thought of rebellion.
We're not just going to kill your friend and kill you, but we're going to take your fan base away from you, because they're all going to hate you for this.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. Because it's your fault that Ianto's dead.
It is. Yeah. He said it's my fault, and I'm like, hell yes, it is.
Exactly. Because it was his arrogance. Because it's Jack. He does, and because he is immortal, he feels indestructible, and I think because of that, his ego and his arrogance kind of get the better of him here, and he figures, well, I could just waltz in there, confront the 456 because, hey, I'm Captain Jack. I could say something clever and wink and smile, maybe occasionally show my naked butt, and and everybody will think it's cool, and you guys will crumble and fold like a house of cards, and that'll be it, and we'll go have lunch.
Yeah, but then along comes these aliens who don't care about his naked butt because they're all about spitting on walls.
Right.
They're gross.
Yeah. There's like, well, we're not impressed at all. And so Jack goes in there, all cocky, and then basically has his ass handed to him by the 456. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, because Jack was arrogant enough to drag Ianto into this very precarious situation, he loses Ianto as a result, and
we lose Ianto.
Exactly,
we lose Ianto.
Well, the Torchwood team loses Ianto, and now we're down from 3-2 by the end of this.
Yeah, if it wasn't already bad enough at the end of last season.
So all that aside, now, what was everybody's reactions when Ianto actually died? Were you surprised that they actually killed him off?
I was not surprised. I mean, I was bubbling over with tears, Right. It was gross. I get like that. You show me a sentimental commercial, I'll get all teary-eyed, but Yeah, I was gross about it, but I wasn't really surprised because after killing off 2/5 of the main cast, and then we're not going to give you a full season next, we're going to give you a 5-episode miniseries.
Right.
I was really heavily feeling the show's not going to continue after that. And when you're killing off a show, you kill off characters.
All bets are off.
Yeah, I felt the same thing.
The question is always, how are they going to do it? And is it going to tug at the heartstrings? And yeah.
Basically, you're wondering, like, is he going to go full Joss Whedon? And sure enough, Russell T Davies goes full Joss Whedon in this one. Kills off a beloved character in Ianto. And Jesse, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I echo everything said there. I was very sad, but I wasn't surprised. This felt like that this could have been the last season of Torchwood. So I also think that, similar to Serenity, you've got to show consequences of what's happening, or it isn't. It doesn't feel real enough. And when I mean real, I mean as in not realistic, but just it doesn't affect you emotionally. So I was really, really sad, but I was not surprised that this is what happened whatsoever.
Yeah, this is I think another case of to go back to our poker metaphor. This is Russell T Davies going all in and showing that like anything can happen. Like even someone as beloved as Ianto can get killed off. And again, here at episode 4, the stakes are raised again. And so the question now is, by the end of episode 4, day 4, how is Jack going to, cope with this? How is Gwen going to cope with this? Now that it's just the two of them plus Reese, and
Reese doesn't want to be a part of Torchwood.
Exactly, Reese who doesn't want to be a part of Torchwood. Thank you. And how are they going to stop this thing? Because just the scale of it without the Doctor being around again, and so again, just everything gets elevated, and we go screaming right into that final episode, and and Gwen, poor Gwen, right after Jack wakes up. And you notice for once Jack didn't do that big exaggerated, where he wakes himself up and blows out his lungs like I just did doing that.
I feel like the way he wakes up is always relative to how he died, and when you die from a virus, it's slow and quiet. Sort of gentle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that theory.
Assuming it's not one that makes you hack up a lung.
Yeah, I think that's a good theory because we know that when he was regenerated from being blown up real good and by that building,
there was screaming.
He was screaming, and as you probably would be if that was you. Yeah, I know I would be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just the regrowth process looked pretty painful too.
But so anything else about Ianto's death or how this final sequence, how this all ended?
Well,
day 4.
I'm also just a little upset with Reese about it. I know that sounds weird, but there was one last chance to have a little private time between Jack and Ianto, but no, the bloody beans are almost ready.
Right. Yeah,
bloody beans.
Reese just kind of blocked him there, didn't he?
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up as well. I thought that was a funny scene.
Yeah.
We got one last chance to make it real.
But
yes, it is.
Shoot,
it is.
Now I'm realizing I forgot to write down a quote.
Yeah. But again, that's very Joss Whedon. That hey, these two characters are almost going to hook up, and then one of them just died.
Yeah. So it was good.
That's a total Whedon move.
Yeah.
All right. So Christine. Anything that we overlooked here you want to talk about? I know we.
Yeah.
I want to leave this open
note,
for you. Yeah.
On a lighter and yet topical note. So at the beginning of episode 3, our team has found a secret hideout to set up base again, and it's the 4 of them, and they're They're trying to hunker down, keep it under the radar, not be seen so much, but they need essentials. Thank you, Ianto, for getting coffee, obviously. But I would like to point out that the very essential toilet paper for 4 people who are trying not to leave very often, a 4-pack.
We know each member gets a roll.
Yes, and this should be good for a while.
Well,
okay, guys.
I'm guessing Gwen will have the hardest time because women generally need more toilet paper.
Yeah,
as is experienced in my household.
well, twice as many reasons for it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Understandable. Perfectly understandable.
Yeah. That was a funny line. That was a funny scene to see that.
Yeah.
And
Gwen's
just so
like,
happens,
oh, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah. And
thank
just
God.
so happens, right, that he's able to find at a military surplus store the right equipment.
The exact same coat.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Okay, but yes, it was good to see our team back.
Torchwood Reborn, as I like to call it.
Cosplayers across the world go bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait a minute, I can't find that coat. How did he just happen to find that coat?
I have looked. No way.
Ianto just knows guys. He's got contacts.
On another lighter note, so they have to go steal a bunch of stuff for get back into things. They steal at least 1 laptop, probably 2. At one point, I actually saw a desktop and monitor. I don't know where they got that from, but so I see a couple of briefcases get stolen from some business
wallets
types.
And all that out of purses.
Yeah, but like specifically the laptops. Now, did you guys take a look at that laptop when we had it open and we're just about to get into? No, Jesse, Charles, did you happen to notice what was on that laptop?
It was an Apple laptop, wasn't it?
No.
Go ahead.
It was a not Dell, but I'm talking about what was on the desktop.
No, I didn't.
I didn't catch that. What?
I was going to make a joke, but if you guys didn't know what was on there, it was some tasteful pictures of
was it
women
porn?
in their underwear.
It's porn.
Women in their underwear.
Cheesecake?
And there was. I actually paused it to look at the desktop, and actually, as much, as someone might have.
So it's tasteful porn.
Yes, much as someone might have, underwear wearing women on their work desktop, which I don't understand.
Funny.
I was actually more appalled at the organization of the files. It was just terrible. They have picture files on the desktop, but also tons of folders, and the folders were just repetitive. It was like work files, my stuff.
So basically, so you were upset because the owner of the laptop didn't clean up his desktop.
Yeah, it was terrible.
He had laptop storage.
I really respect you for that. I really respect you for that.
Absolutely.
Because mine is immaculate.
I want to know what kind of job they have where they can have that crap on their desktop.
Exactly.
But okay.
Yeah. And
all right.
And then of course advice from the doctor: always delete your internet history.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So just saying, just putting that out there. For little friendly tip to everybody. All right. Anything else about this episode before we get into our favorite quotes?
Nope.
All right. So who wants to start first? And I'm sure Christine has 1 or 2, and now she said she struggled with quotes.
Yeah. This one I'm actually doing from memory because I just that last little discussion.
Yeah.
Made me remember it. Jack and Ianto are having a little heart-to-heart, and it gets a little flirty. And Jack tells Reese, "Hey, why don't you go over to the wharf? We're gonna need discs for these things that go to the shops on the wharf. It should take about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes."
I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was. The only one I have is the long one from Denise. So go ahead, Charles.
No, go for it. I don't want to steal yours. If that's the only one you got.
Yeah. The first responsibility is to protect the best interests of this country, right? Then let's say it. In a national emergency, a country must plan for the future. and discriminate between those who are vital to continued stability and those who are not. And now that we've established that our kids are exempt, the whole principle of random selection is dead in the water anyway. Let me finish. Now look, on the one hand, we've got the good schools, and I don't just mean those producing graduates. I mean the people who will go on to staff our hospitals, our offices, our factories, the workforce of the future. We need them. Accepted, yes. So, set against that, you got the failing schools, full of the less able, the less socially useful, those destined to spend a lifetime on benefits, occupying places on the dole queue, and frankly, the prisons. Now look, should we treat them equally? God knows we tried and we failed, and now the time has come to choose. And if we can't identify the lowest achieving 10% of this country's children, then what are the school leagues tables for?
Denise.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did she say something in there about essential workers? Oh, I mean, not essential workers.
Yeah. I get a feeling that Denise would thrive rather well in certain administration right now.
I think she would as well.
Yeah, just a hunch. Okay, so one of my quotes, I'm going to go with right off the bat, Gwen and Jack, and this is just basically after they've started to set up shop in that kind of Torchwood warehouse, and Gwen goes, "So what do we do? Just sit here?" And Jack goes, "Worse than that, do I have to stay in these clothes? I mean, come on. Tracksuit bottoms? Not a good look."
Ah, Jack, you're so vain.
Yes, he is. But that's why we love him. All right. So, do you have any more, Christine?
Yeah. So Gwen calls Ianto after dropping off the contacts with Lois, and he tells her about they found Clem and where he is, and he says, "Could you get him out?" "How am I supposed to do that?" "You were a policewoman." "Oh, okay, bloody hell. Anything else while I'm at it?" "Fillet steak would be nice." "Yeah, don't push it."
I love how they pronounce it fillet as opposed to fillet. Thought that was good.
There's 2 L's in it, too.
I know. Because the Brits, they spell their words wrong. All those extra U's and all that nonsense.
They use an S.
That's why we had a revolution, to fix their language.
Yeah.
All right. Jesse, you said you don't have any more, right? Okay.
They say things like negotiate.
Yeah.
C8.
Exactly. I'm going to give PC Andy Davidson a shout out because we haven't really talked about him in this. He has a nice little conversation with Gwen, and he says, when she turns up alive, and he goes, "You're alive." Gwen goes, "Yes, I'm still alive, you idiot. Now shut up. I need some help." And PC Andy replies, "We need you. All these kids saying we are coming, and that's today. I mean, what's it going to be? Like a spaceship or Godzilla?"
Very nice.
I thought that was cute.
Kind of Godzilla.
Yep. Christine, you got any more?
I wrote down some serious ones, but I really don't want to bring us back down.
Okay. All right. Because we're on such a, we're a little positive step here.
Yes.
And, all right. Let's see. Do I have anything that's positive? Probably not, because this is a pretty depressing story.
Yes, that's why I didn't write a lot.
Yeah. So. I mean, I've got one from Allison Warning Johnson. She goes, "I can only assume that you're holding me here as insurance against my father. But let me warn you, if you've angered him, then God help you." And Johnson replies, "This from the woman who spent her life running away from him?" And Alice counters, "And why do you think I did that? A man who can't die has got nothing to fear, so you watch it, and you keep watching."
Yeah, well done.
So a bit of defiance there from Alice. I kind of like that. Showing a little spirit, like her father. So I thought that was good. All right, so what's everybody's ratings? Christine, I'm guessing we're going on the Christine rating scale?
No. I will rate on whatever scale you have.
No. You go for
I just wanted to clarify what it was.
Okay.
Now, my problem is, like I said, the casual enjoyment factor would give me 1 rating. But breaking it down and realizing how, I buy that the government didn't really have a plan or even try to fight the aliens, but I did not like that being a huge oversight on Jack's part, on all of Torchwood's part. Somebody should have brought it up. And I feel like that wasn't realistic for that team. So the deep analysis of the episodes would bring my rating down. So I feel like I should take like an average of those two.
Okay. Split the difference.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 9 out of 10 4-packs of toilet paper.
Excellent.
Ooh, I like that rating a lot.
Very timely rating.
Yeah.
I
know.
Well played.
I also give this, despite my unhappiness with some of the characters' behaviors, I think that adds to why I'm rating this so high. So I give this 9 out of 10 disappointing heroes.
Oh. Well, guess what, kids? We're in sync. We're all I give it 9 out of 10 as well. I'm giving it 9 out of 10 Torchwood contact lenses.
Ooh, nice.
And,
that was going to be my rating.
Although I want to call out Lois, she really should have said something to Gwen, because Gwen just pulled those right out of her eyes.
Yeah, gross.
And I'm thinking, well, you don't know if Gwen's got an eye infection. I hope she washed those before she put them in.
I mean, I think we all know now that you really need to be careful when touching your eyes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Look at Christine being so timely. I like that.
It's just so easy with these episodes.
You're so contemporary. I love that.
Hey, I've got somebody every 20 minutes telling me to avoid touching my eyes, nose, and mouth. Yeah. And I swear to God, he must be from the UP or Canada, because he says, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth.
A? Was there an A after it?
Well, he's a professional doctor, so I guess he has to try to not do that.
Got it. All right. So I don't know if we have time for this. Probably should save this for next time.
I think so.
All right, but I do want to talk about, acknowledge that Russell T Davies wrote this great, very tear-jerky farewell Sarah Jane coda to the Sarah Jane Adventures, and also a nice tribute to Elizabeth Sladen, who died in 2011. Just came out this week. We could probably talk more about it next week, since we're running long. But I did, go watch this, because it's, yes, it's very sad, but you'll have a good cry, and do it for Elizabeth Sladen, in tribute to her, because it's adorable. And
in case Ianto's death didn't get all of the tears out of you.
Exactly. So it's a good cleansing for everybody, a good emotional cleansing. All right.
So I misunderstood. I assumed we were going to save the wonderful feedback from Holly, but very long, for next episode.
Well, no, I was thinking that we shouldn't say the farewell Sarah Jane, but she did write in about episodes 3 and 4, so we should probably read that. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me take a drink here, because Jesse said, it's a bit long.
We're not going anywhere, right?
Well, if you need to go, I don't have to talk about it. We can save it for next time. I don't want to keep you here against your will.
No, remember, we're not supposed to go anywhere.
Oh, this is true. We're social isolating. It's cool, right? All right, so thankfully Holly Mack, who obviously was here last time, writes in to kind of contribute to our discussion about days 3 and 4. Hey, Charles, Jesse, and Christine.
Hi, Holly.
That is us.
Yep. So Christine getting a shout out there. Going to try and keep this short.
Good luck.
She fails miserably. Just pointing that out there. But we still love you, Holly. But again, there's a lot of going on in these 2 episodes. Days 3 and 4 of Children of Earth. Where to begin? The news broadcast at the beginning, and then end at the end, and then fill up the middle somehow.
Yes.
The news broadcast line from a few minutes into the episode about tensions mounting around the whole planet is true, and it is also mounting for our beloved Team Torchwood. Nice to know that Ianto has a good knowledge of all the unused spaces that previous Torchwood bases have had at one time, because he doesn't have a hobby, apparently.
Torchwood is his hobby.
Thank you. Jack should know better than to be a Mr. Grumpy Pants with his clothes while being on the run from someone that wants to see all of you dead. Just saying. And, of course, Reese would find out that Jack and Ianto knew about Gwen being pregnant before he did. We didn't talk about that, but yeah. Reese doesn't take that very well.
It doesn't take a lot of things well.
But that one I could kind of understand. It's like, come on, man, I'm not the first. And, because you want to be the first when you're the dad. She goes, he got over it quick, but I could still understand the anger. Love Reese's point to the team that if the government is treating them like thieves, then they should start acting like it. And the montage with them making off with computers and whatever else they need was just brilliant.
Yes, and Jack stealing John Barrowman's car.
Right. So that was actually his
actually his car.
That's a pretty sweet ride. I was very envious of that car. Mm. I was like, I would take that totally. Not that I have or anything, just saying. Ianto proves himself to be more than just the tea/coffee boy. We're talking right up there with Radar O'Reilly from MASH with getting the things they need. Love that the team decides to go back to Lois and have her use the Torchwood contact lenses to find out what's going down at Tim's Hall, hopefully after washing them. The scene with Ianto asking Jack if he thinks his luck with immortality will ever run out. Jack tells him he thinks he's forever because of being a fixed point in time thing.
Spoiler.
Okay, cue the Who Wants to Live Forever? 1 Year of Love by Queen for this. Poor Jack trying to get a quiet moment for him and Ianto by trying to send Reese away, only to be told the beans are almost ready. Arg!
Bloody beans!
Bloody beans. Jack, realizing the names of the people that were killed were the ones he recognized from 1965, has him rattled, and for good reason, as we later find out. I was cringing big time when Johnson found Alice, though Alice is certainly her father's daughter. Wonder if her mother was just as feisty. We never find out who her mother is, do we?
They did mention her name.
They did. She was a Torchwood employee, so I assume
Italian.
So I assume she was very feisty.
I can remember.
And also very, very competent being a member of Torchwood.
Okay, so basically, Jack broke human resources rules and went after a coworker. Shame on you, Jack. That's not cool.
Hey, you don't know that she didn't go after him.
Well, if I'm presuming if he was in charge, that's still
probably not back then.
Yeah, that's true. It's 1965, maybe. So anyway, let's see. Where did I leave off here? Tim's house almost a hellmouth when the 456 make their arrival, and the 456 are almost like the aliens from Independence Day.
Whoa.
That's scary, right?
I feel a connection with Holly.
Mixed with something else. You could do worse because Holly's cool. Frobisher becoming the spokesperson for all the governments, and that the Prime Minister won't take any of the blame if things go south really lets Frobisher know how deep he's in it. The gift of the 456, when I first heard of it, it made me sick to my stomach. Clem can smell the man that had him help take him, and of course, it's Jack. Told you this is a long email. Jack's hands were sort of tied up, or were kind of tied to give up the kids as a gift and to get the antivirus to prevent a major deadly virus. Choosing Jack because they needed someone who didn't care was probably the best choice then, but I think it did rattle him a bit. Don't blame Clem in the least for the shooting Jack at all, because he totally deserved it. Alice is right that a man who can't die has nothing to fear. The 456 can either sense that Clem is alive, or that it can tell that Lois has the contact lenses. The revelation that one of the children from 1965 is still alive and still a child was heart-wrenching. Nothing like putting Frobisher between a rock and a hard place with the 456's ultimatum. Jack trying to shut out Ianto, but telling him about Alice and Stephen before leaving to try to talk to Frobisher is an almost big damn hero moment to go it alone. Nice Firefly reference there. The 456 repeating those numbers were terrifying in that it's the percentage of children that will be taken. The Prime Minister wants to reject the deal. Rick was trying to convince him to take it, and then the spin to take, and then deciding of who to choose. Ianto telling his sister to take the kids was also letting those who are listening to know what the government has planned for the children. Almost there. The whole evacuation of the Tim's house and the release of the virus was some of the tensest moments, with none of them being able to get out. The final moments between Jack and Ianto still have me crying every time. Ianto, you're not going to have to worry. Jack will never forget you. and neither have we fans. The shrine for him is still around to this day. I will have to say that Ianto was the heart and soul of the team, and it's going to take quite some time for the remaining members of Torchwood to return to some type of normal. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. All right.
It's okay. I'm glad you're keeping me indoors, Holly. My mom just handed me a snowball.
Uh-oh. Is it snowing outside?
I have to assume.
Okay, presumably, unless it was just kept in the fridge for some reason. All right. If you want to be like Holly and hopefully write a little shorter email, that would be great, because my voice sucks right now. So please write to us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com or at nextstopsmg on Twitter or on Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who Podcast, or Instagram, Next Stop Everywhere Podcasts. And Christine, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, you can check out my graphic design work, which I'm actually putting a little bit out on my Facebook page. You like my Facebook page, Christine Peruski.
Please
Don't send me a friend request because I probably don't know who you are. And, well, you don't tend to answer those friend requests. But you can like my page without issue. You can follow me on Twitter, although I'm still not very active on there. It is C_Peruski.
And Jesse, how about you?
I can be found on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. And from there, you can find all the various podcasts I'm on. Charles, how about you?
Of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog, Geeky Things. Do that thing.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, your Doctor Who, your Torchwood, your Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for Southgate Media Group, including Titan Talk, the Titans podcast they do with Jesse, which is kind of on hiatus right now. The Phantom Zone podcast they do with Jesse, where we just kind of did a special episode of like Who Watches the Binge Watch. So we can talk about, comic book TV shows to binge watch while you're hiding out from the coronavirus in your basements of solitude. And Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast to do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard here on Next Stop Everywhere and is absolutely incredible. And we recently did episode 72 where we talked the 30th anniversary of Twin Peaks, and it turned out rather well, in my opinion. So I hope everybody please check that out. And then hopefully come on back for episode 73 as we return to our discussion of Twin Peaks: The Return. So other than that, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, well, you could probably guess, because, hey, we talked about episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to talk about day 5. So next week, episode 182, we're talking Children of Earth, day 5, with Holly Mack is returning to finish what she started with Jesse and myself, and hopefully we'll have as good of an audio quality as we had today from Skype. Fingers crossed. And because thankfully we held up today, I think. And anybody have any final thoughts before we sign off?
As always, just want to thank Christine for joining us. We appreciate. Christine, please don't commit homicide at your job. And
don't get caught, at least.
Yeah, keep being safe, taking care of yourself, and I guess go enjoy the snow. Charles, thank you as always for keeping us on track and moving forward.
Try my best.
And we will talk next week, right?
Exactly. So, Christine, yes, I definitely want to thank you so much. Have a ball talking to you as always. You're always welcome here. We love having you on. Have you on more often if we could. And I hope you come back soon.
All right.
All right.
I will keep that in mind.
Please.
And I hope everybody out there will go easy on the toilet paper.
Right. Pretty much, because Gwen needs it. So don't shortchange Gwen, okay? And everybody come on back next time, episode 182, Children of Earth, Day 5, as we continue Torchwood Month right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, an occasional Torchwood podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.